I think that it really comes down to, you still have to have, and I don't know how long it'll be before AI can do this, and but right now we still have an imaginative, creative value. If you ask AI, write me a story, versus you actually using AI to help you write your story, it's a very different product. And I think it's the same even like in the medical field. I think having a doctor that understands it, but being able to harness AI to help in the process, and it's just a new tool, right? I
Yeah,
think that's
there's
something that,
levels. There's levels to the game of AI, right? Like we've been creating stories with AI, myself and Eric, and we found that it really is in the prompt engineering. It is in the amount of
Hmm.
frameworks, the way that you get it to actually get its data and prepare it. So I think, yeah, that like you were saying, Eric, prompt engineering is going to be in all different fields, right? A prompt engineer is going to be one of the most sought after jobs in all
that's right.
industries.
You
Yeah,
need to understand
Oh
it.
yeah, for sure,
and
for
building
sure.
pipelines, there is like a bunch of new tools who work, with this node and possibly approach, which is for the artist looking at us, like using software such as Houdini or Unreal Engine. And right now you see, especially in the visual fields or in the 3D generation fields, you have as well people building system connecting nodes, or even with automation tools like N8N and things like that. So humans can as well take more the role of, let's say, data systems and trying to build the architecture of a system, but then it's the AI that can do something. And obviously, I still think in many, many cases, at least nowadays, you need a human to drive. Let's say if you build a whole automatic pipeline, let's say with an automated answer to something, you will want to come and fix a few things. And by the way, you, Solaris, how do you feel that AI is changing the field when it comes to gaming? How do you see the AI impact in let's say gaming?
I mean, for now, it kind of touches upon everything that we were talking about. Is like AI has closed many doors, but it's opened many other doors.
Yeah.
It's allowed people to really enter and kind of like play around with what they can do, and has lowered the barriers to entry for so many different industries. And like for gaming specifically, it's really helped us lower our costs with regards to just the generation of all our models. The fact that we're starting to see procedurally generated worlds, they're not game ready, but the fact that they're starting to exist is really, really cool and interesting. I've seen some, again, not ready, but text to prompt rigging, which is also kind of insane. So once you can start animating, you can design insane pipelines for
We could have a whole
$100 subscriptions a month.
Yeah.
And we can have a show talking about and detailing that process further.
Because it's incredible. It's incredible, yeah. With the design
But like,
process. Yeah.
It's unbelievable. Now, again, you still need, texturing is terrible. You still need like real hands to texture. You still need real hands to rig and weight paint and like kind of make these models game ready. Also, there's a lot of work, but it's still coming that needs to come with regards to like, making these models more efficient with their polygon count, for example, so that they work better for mobile gaming that's not there yet. But again, they're coming. We were looking at actually a modular AI 3D engine that allowed to, which again, not there, but you could create now weapon systems and animate them with, again, like AI mod, because before you could create the 3D model of a weapon, but to animate it, you need all its different components.
Yeah.
And then you need to be able to stitch those together. With these models now, eventually they'll be intuitive enough to where you can create these 3D models that have all of these components created
That's
modularly
amazing.
and kind of put them together.
Yeah,
so like it's really lowered the barriers to entry to just like be able to create and bring to life, projects and ideas.
Worlds.
Absolutely. It makes me think, Max and I, we've been talking about, the digital fashion industry for quite some time, since we've all watched Blade Runner, or not Blade Runner, excuse me, but Ready Player One. We're ready to jump into that experience. And one of the bottlenecks to digital fashion is that it's the rigging. If you were to create, for instance, different types of wearables, every avatar needs its own rigging because it's different shapes and sizes, right? From Chewbacca to a Chihuahua. So, you'd have to create that. But what AI is allowing us to do right now in a new update for Unreal is it's allowing the rigging to adapt to the actual avatar that it would need to go on. So now you could create digital hats, t-shirts, all of this kind of stuff, and it would be able to adapt its rigging to whatever different asset class there is. And Nike, of course, made a real big step into digital fashion. A couple years ago, they created over 1 million pairs of shirts and socks and hats and pants, and and it wasn't, the market wasn't ready for something like that yet. But it really is interesting to see how,
For me, what's very interesting is, and that's a message of hope for everyone. Every day I'm always telling myself I'm frightened by all the advancement and possibilities, but at the same time, you always reach the max level. So each time I think the human is pretty good at adaptation. As an example, if you think about, let's say, those modular 3D generation, then you still have the same amount of time in a journey, in a day. So you can just work more. And I think if time is the currency, like a better tool will just allow a single individual to produce more, but you always quickly reach a cap, especially in 3D right now. Like nothing made by AI is at professional level. You always need a human.
Yeah,
And each time something works, then the human can step in at another level or just polish more something.
What part of that process is still going to the human? So, like, so our viewers can understand.
Almost,
I think, yeah.
I would say almost everything that requires attention to detail or quality. As an example, AI is capable to generate at a pretty bad level or sometimes at a good level anything. You can generate 3D model, you can generate textures, you can generate worlds. Basically, everything can be generated. You can generate rigs. And across all of those, modeling start to become good because there is a lot of data training, but many things are still very bad. If you take the rigging, it works quite nicely for humans, but as soon as you go into a fantasy shape, let's say a dragon with 6 wings, it's done.
It doesn't work.
But you have some university and researcher who try to build this model, so it will come. But then that's just more work for the guy who's going to animate. And same, you have people working on animation prediction. Like you have a lot evolving, but right now you still need to be quite technical to be able to push something. And I think that's the interesting part for artists is like you can just do more. I think people who are really suffering were people who were probably focused in a very specific thing that might be replaced, or people who are concept artists, as an example, just focusing on images. And even I still think AI sometimes lack consistency. So you can produce nice images, but a human will be, at least for now, way better at maintaining a sort of art direction and consistency and just placing the character. Like you're not prompting, change my character from location. The guy very good at Photoshop will just move the character where it needs to be. So for now, I think it's a lot of mid and low level people who are questioning where you could go. But if you're really passionate, you can go further. And that's fun that you were speaking about the digital fashion, because that's a conversation I got today with Solaris. It was about the fact that I think the people who are really going to push this idea of interoperability and compatibility will obviously be Epic Games. They've been working on
Facts.
They are themselves developing the Unreal Engine. So right now, a lot of, let's say, outcomes really depend on the engine builders. It's the same, it's Unreal Engine who are going to come and say, hey, with this new update, you can just load 1 million characters and, oh wow, we have big, large-scale open worlds. I don't think it's going to be an indie coming and be like, oh, I figured out how, you can load more characters. Or it's smaller engines, like we saw with Improbable, but then you have less developers, ecosystem is smaller, you have less tutorials, so it's always trickier to develop into an ecosystem that has less resources.
For sure.
Yeah, it's what we were talking about. It's kind of the next step, I think. They'll just allow people to, in their engine, build various worlds connected by the, under the Epic umbrella, and that will allow then interoperability between all of these games and all these worlds, and that'll be like our first experience of the metaverse.
For sure. They already do this in Fortnite, right? There's obviously you have the ecosystem where they're activating other IPs, but then you've actually got the creator economy on there where people can build their own worlds. And Eric, I know that your son plays this a lot, where it's not just the zero build or the main battle royale, but there's thousands and thousands of different genres of games now.
Yeah, it's the Roblox model.
That's
it is genius.
I want to go back to a quick point and give you a hot take on what you were talking about, Max, about where we are with AI right now, and with rigging and animation and design. Look, it's just going to get better and better. Obviously, what we have right now is so far beyond what we thought was capable just 2 years ago, with some of these first AI models. And so it's going to get better and better. But I think the one thing that's necessary is that, when you're creating something with AI, if you have a knowledgeable understanding of the pipeline, the processes, how you get from A to Z, what needs to be done. So it makes you a better prompt engineer. I think the value that AI brings, you can take an average guy that wants to create something with AI. It's not going to know the same things that a designer that's worked in that field, for the last 5 years knows to ask the AI for. And I think that's where we can get a real value.
I mean, not that every AI is based out of prompts, but if we go back even to ground level, what's the most important is critical thinking, because you can literally improve your prompt, just yourself being aware. I need to ask, the large language model to check its own documentation and come back with a suggestion. And by yourself, if you read that documentation yourself, you can as well tell AI, hey, you forgot to add, I don't know, those XML tags because you've been trained with XML tags. And if you're just aware of those small things, you can be good at prompting without being good at prompting.
Right. You need to still have a knowledgeable understanding of the industry that you're in. I think
100%. This is what Jensen Huang said at the latest GTC. He was saying that, we're not firing our engineers just because AI can code now. Each of our engineers has their own AI that allows them to do 500% more work. Yeah, and that's something that, Eric, you could probably touch on this a little bit about how we kind of, when talking to clients and how we approach that, because there are going to be jobs that are lost. There are jobs that are being lost already, but our whole ethos is trying to create products that empower the workforce.
That's right. We're already in talks with some of the largest retailers worldwide, and their big concern is we don't want to be replacing the human workforce. It's a very kind of like slippery slope for public relations and brand image and just having like a soul. This is a very what does this mean when AI and robotics takes everybody's jobs? And that's comes back to this idea that we're saying here about that you still need knowledgeable people in the space. We're empowering them. That's the way I see it. Our AI that we're developing, it has all the information, knows every single information, SKU, any type of data that needs to be conveyed from the company to the customer. It has it instantly. It can speak any language. It can be able to do it in a meaningful, caring way. It's empathetic towards the customer. So, this is a powerful tool, but at the same time, the workforce that's being able to interact with this as well, they don't have to call a manager. They don't have to go and find out. It's like having, your own personal Jarvis there for your team to be able to interface with, it's a pretty wild idea.
The main concern of brands, which might be the consumer one as well, is the uncanny effect. You don't want to show up a shop and there is no human, or to an hospital, let's say you're breaking something and there is the AI, there, hey, how are you today? Yeah, I think that creates the uncanny effect. But there is some fields, discussion I got as well with Solaris about, I think as an example in entertainment, if you create a new class of things based off hologram, I don't know, you create a holographic coliseum and you have, holograms fighting. There, I think there is a whole new world of possibilities in entertainment. While if it's like a direct effect, let's say someone has the habit of, I don't know, going to the post office and one day the post officer is gone and there is an AI, I think that's where it will cause a problem to people. While if it's a sort of addition, hey, the post guy is still there, but you have a second one to just, process more so you can peak.
Don't wait in the queue. You can wait in the queue if you want, or you could use the self-service. That's kind of where we're at the moment, isn't it?
Yeah. I really think that we're at a place because, and it really comes down to the visual side of this. We're looking to create avatars that, feel really cool and are able to connect with you very quickly to where, we talk about that uncanny valley. That's the idea that as you're creating avatars that get too close to real life, it can't ever be exactly real life and it creates a disconnect. So, we have a real big focus, the teams that we're working with, to create these types of avatars that it's an avatar, but it's comfortable to interact with. And latency is a major component of human connection. We're getting our latency down to where it's almost human level. And that's where I say hello, and then it says hello back real fast. With AI that we're dealing with right now, a lot of times, you're waiting 5, 6, 7 seconds for a response. So you can't imagine having an organic, normal conversation. It's very disconnecting to interact like that. But our avatars are getting really close now to being able to have human level latency, where we can have complex conversations and people actually want to engage. We're already getting data off of it showing that people will spend 4 times longer talking to an AI than they would normally with one of the automated phone services. They have a higher closing rate. They're being able to do things very competitively against the human counterpart right now. And so it really is, and that's just going to get better because we're in our infancy right now. What does this look like in 10 years?
The market is really only just getting started, right? We were creating for events and expos because it was kind of novel, it was your brand storyteller. But now we're able to connect these avatars up to your systems and your processes, and it can actually, interact with your business backend, and it's a human counterpart front. So for consumer brands, it's a huge value add to have
powerful.
this digital human.
Yeah, absolutely.
I have sort of two thoughts that come to mind. First, that I want to ask is what advancements have you seen recently that has allowed you guys to really lower that latency and make it feel human-like? And then second, it's a point that I'd like to discuss, but we can save that for after that. But it's the idea of this disconnect between the physical and the digital, and maybe why it feels so disconnected is the medium at the moment hasn't been fully integrated together. So the idea that we're interacting with the digital by just using our phone or a laptop or something quite physical, but once we blend VR, AR,
XR,
and really XR and connect these experiences, perhaps that blending or that merger will create more just kind of bolster reality, is what we were talking about before.
Of course.
More synergies between the two and make it feel a lot more natural. But those are the 2 points that I started to think about.
Sure. I'll talk a little bit about both of those. To your last question, XR is coming faster than VR, and we're about to have XR in everything. This has been a big thing that we've talked about for the last, over 2 years now, is about the smart glasses boom that's right around the corner. And then, of course, just over the last couple of months, we have the new Samsung glasses, and we have the Apple, right? I think it's Apple who is it that just launched the other big
Android.
Android, right? Android. We've got all these smart glasses coming out.
They look fresh as well, guys. They look cool. Yeah. They look cool. They've got a lot of the back end here, and the frames are actually like normal size now, which again is going to be a massive part for people wearing and adopting.
A really big smart glasses. So XR is right around the corner, and when XR is here, we're going to have digital overlays to all of our reality. You're going to see digital advertising everywhere. You think of like billboards as you drive down the street, advertisement billboards. Now you're talking about digital real estate, and so you're going to start to see all types of signage and ads. Google reviews floating over the top of restaurants, people's social media score floating over their head. It's going to be a very interesting.
I want to call it now, just so that we can have this capped. If anyone's looking to create, any of the audience, to create a good business, look at creating an app for smart glasses, because we see with the MetaQuest at the start of YouTube starving for content, and me and Eric, we talk about this all the time, but I know that the smart glasses are going to drop and there isn't going to be many apps or competition. So if you can create a very good utility play, I reckon there's going to be a lot of money to be made in XR.
Because it's the disconnect at the moment between the two that makes it feel so jarring. You're kind of switching from physical to digital, but that blending.
It's getting ready. One and the same.
I'm going to be rocking those. I'm going to be rocking those.
Don't you guys think it's going to accelerate as well, let's say, some disconnect we already have in society? Because I totally see engineers maybe trying to work and use these purely as tools and being capable of, having a good usage. And maybe you are going to have kids who are going to look at you and they are going to have, side TikTok scrolls when you
no.
Well, that's what we're all scared about, to be honest. Once you have already the rates at which we're seeing people like use ChatGPT as their therapist or like as their best friend or their best friend. Or now if you have an AR interface overlaying. So
do we not feel that like bringing the eye contact up though, right, is going to be a major point for society, because everyone's looking down at their phones, whether you're on like a train or you're walking around, people aren't looking at each other. But if we can look at
getting
each
ready to be
other.
right there in
It's
your
kind of
eyesight.
merging the
Yeah.
two there, because I could literally have like my email over there that I'm replying, but I'm also kind of in a conversation, which again isn't
On-
productive. But
This is kind of my take for a lot of things, Jerry, outside of just technology. But on a macro lens, I don't think it'll be, I mean, I'm more pessimistic, but it's down to the individual to decide how they want to consume this technology. And on an individualistic level, if you're smart about how you want to use this stuff, it opens up an unbelievable world of possibilities.
best believe
and
that
can
I am
really
going to be
enhance
one
your
of the
experience.
evangelists of smart
So it's
glasses.
down to the
Yeah.
individual.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean,
but
look, everybody uses earbuds, right? And you see everybody walking around with that Bluetooth. As soon as that came out, next thing you know, it's just a couple of years, and everybody's walking around with Bluetooth headset devices.